You can.
Listening to, John says that people say he's dramatic. He's not. It's not dramatic what he says. When I last saw Julian in prison, I thought, oh, actually, he's doing a lot better than previously. There had been some changes in his conditions due to the prisoners inside the prison sort of, lobbying the governor and petitioning that Julian, who had been in some solitary confinement on the medical wing, be moved. It was also behind-the-scenes work by the lawyers. And as I was leaving, I thought, there are all these walls, and he's inside the wall, and it's been a decade of very small reasons as to why he can't be outside any wall. And it's always been almost reasonable. So he was under house arrest because there was an outlying allegation but no charge. And so that went on for a year. Then he applied for asylum and was granted asylum, went to the embassy, and then there was a reason as to why the asylum was not valid or wouldn't be accepted, and that went on for 7 years. There's a reason as to why 3 United Nations rulings weren't accepted, that he should be released and enjoy his asylum, and that went on. And all of this constant, it's cuts, 1,000 cuts constantly, result in a normalization. And so then it became acceptable. It was normal that he was in the embassy. It was normal that he was under house arrest. It's normal that you just forget who cares about the United Nations. And now is not the time where we can allow that to happen. Because that sort of normalization, well, I ask you, is it normal? Is it normal that his lawyers have to complain to the judge that they've only had 3 hours with him in the last month? That's not normal. Is it normal that foreign ministers and people in Europe and parliamentarians are calling for him not to be in prison? Or is it normal that 28 members of parliament from 12 countries are coming to monitor the hearing that he's going to have? And it's not a trial. He will at no point will he ever be in front of a jury in this country. He'll only be in front of a judge, government-appointed judge. And if it should happen that he end up in the United States, he will be in front of a jury, but it will be a secret jury, a secret grand jury with people from the Eastern District of Virginia, where 90% of that community has or does work for the CIA, the Pentagon, the State Department. So from a no jury to a bench jury, and it's not normal. None of this is normal, so we can't allow there to be any sort of normalization. And is it normal that he is paying the price for having exposed war crimes, murders, corruption, complacency of many governments, that nothing that he has put out has been found to be untrue, that nothing in the last 10 years have they been able to prove that he caused harm, which is one of the arguments that the US, I'm sure, will go for, but they have never, even during Chelsea Manning's hearing, one of the Joint Chiefs of the Intelligence Committee said that absolutely no harm had been found. And okay, so let's imagine that he were taken to the US. Well, what would that result in? I'm repeating a bit of what John says, but it means that the First Amendment would have been completely bulldozed. Everything that the United States holds dear in relation to press freedom will be extinct. It means that any journalist or anyone who writes anything about any other country in the world can be extradited to that country, should that country find it unfavorable. So we've been saying for ages that this will set a precedent, and people listen to that, but we had also been saying for 10 years that there was a secret indictment, and people listen to that and scoff, or they don't quite take it on board properly because it seems sort of theoretical. Well, just last week, the Brazilian government has gone after Glenn Greenwald on what is almost a carbon copy indictment as what is being used against Julian. So without it even being final, it's already setting a precedent. I'm just looking at any. There's always, as John says, it's 10 years that I've been with this organisation, and we've had constant attacks, but there's so much information that I can't always remember it. So there'll be the other thing that will happen, and John said that as well, is that there'll be no proper reporting. There will be a crackdown on all. This is a crackdown on national security reporting, and if you're going to report about the government, there are only ever two ways to report about it. You either do investigative journalism, and you deal with sources, and you deal with leaks, and you deal with material, first-hand material, or you just reprint and republish the press statements that come out of the Ministry of Defence, or whichever government agency, and then you're just being a public relations organisation for them. And they're doing this because they have seen that you cannot stop a whistleblower. They tried it with Chelsea. They tried it with many other whistleblowers. Go for the whistleblower, and then they realised that it wouldn't stop. Whistleblowers kept on coming out, and so now it's the next level. Go for the publisher. And what are my last arguments? I think I've actually dealt with all of them. Except maybe, no, not entirely. Julian's being persecuted for the very same reasons that he has won almost 24 awards, journalistic awards. And the stuff that he's being indicted for, the Iraq war logs, the Afghan war logs, Cablegate, these are documents that 10 years down the line, they are a gift to humanity and to history, and they are the gift that keep on giving. They have resulted in people being able to find their own names in there. There's the Al Masri case, which is it's a fascinating case and it's not a new one, but I'll explain it briefly. A German citizen who decided who was on holiday in Macedonia and was picked up by the CIA, where he was rendered to Syria and tortured some, and then sent on to Afghanistan, tortured some more, and then they realized, oh, actually, he just has the same name as somebody we're looking for. It's not the person we're looking for. So then they dumped him in some European country. And when he went after the US government for restitution, they said, well, where's the proof? And then when the cables came out, there were cables about him, so he was able to go and say, here's the proof, and where's my justice? Or the Khashoggi killers. The cables were used to identify who they were, and that was a decade after they were published. And because it is open and accessible for everybody to go and look at, and every person is able to go and investigate that trove. When Julian was first, when we first spoke to Julian when he was arrested, he said to tell people it's not about me, it's about press freedom. So now I've done that. It's true. It is about press freedom, and I've given you the reasons why. But at some point, at what point will it become about him? This is a person who in the last 10 years has not been able to make one single decision spontaneously for himself. And I ask you, where's the humanity in that? It's unacceptable. He hasn't committed any crimes. He's exposed crimes. He's not able to do what John says and go, yeah, oh, I fancy a cup of coffee, let's go down the road. In 10 years. Or, I'd like to go and put my face in the sun. It's just I think everybody needs to ask themselves that as well. It's not just about, it is about press freedom, but not only about that. It's also about humanity and this individual. Thank you.